Hey, Gary, what
Yes,
do you
sir.
do to improve your jiu-jitsu off the mat?
I like to review. And the way I do that is if I go to a seminar, usually 50% of it falls out of my head and I can't remember anything. So I like to go back and review those seminars at a later date.
Yeah, I wish there was a easy way to retain some of that information, whether we are in a class or a seminar, particularly seminar when they are longer and more complex, there's more layers as the instructors are showing techniques. I wish there was a way so we can go back and review all the details. Is there?
Yeah, I think there is. And the way I do it is RŌL TV. Tons of stuff to review. And it's really a great platform for anything you need.
We've built this platform for over 2 years now, over 500 videos, anywhere between techniques, expert lessons, and we have huge guests like Christian Woodman C and Sophia McDormand and many others. And then also all the live events recorded at the Academy are fully available on RŌL TV. So if you're looking to improve your jiu-jitsu or you're looking to review things from the class or seminar, RŌL TV is a perfect platform for you to gain access to. Go to RŌLAcademy.tv, create your account, gain the access, and continue your jiu-jitsu journey.
Yeah, check it out. It works wonders. Like many competitors, Gustavo Dantas' early jiu-jitsu journey was a rough one, losing more than he won, often to people he believed he should be beating. So what did it take for Gustavo to change his losing ways and become a world champion? Listen as Gustavo dives deep into the competitor's mindset, the mistakes they often make during their careers, and how confidence can change your life. Here's RŌL Radio with multi-time IBJJF World Champion, entrepreneur, humanitarian, and creator of the BJJ Mental Coach, Gustavo Dantas.
Welcome to RŌL Radio.
And we are live again. This is becoming a pattern on this show.
It is. I wish everybody could hear the important stuff that they miss because somebody doesn't hit record. Before we get to the guest today, real quick, we've been talking a lot about it. If you follow us on social media, you've seen it. Go to therolradio.com/belt. Answer the age-old question: do you wash your belt? And you will be automatically entered into a free Fuji gi giveaway. We do it at the end of every month, and the first one's right around the corner. So definitely check it out, therolradio.com/belt. Who doesn't want a free gi?
And let's get to the show. Gustavo, thanks for having me. Okay, thanks for being on the show. I recently had the opportunity of being on your podcast. So if you guys are tuning in, make sure you check out the Mental Coach podcast. We had a great conversation. Thanks for being here. Thanks for taking time out of your day and having this kind of chat with us.
Yes. Thank you for having me on the show.
So I'm going to probably miss the half of the stuff that I said on the first time we didn't record this, but you have a very interesting life story. You've established this business and platform for students to be motivated and inspired to compete particularly, but also to train. And what I understand that a lot of that is sourcing from your childhood, from the beginning of your journey. So why don't we start there? How did all this start?
Yes, I've been aware of jiu-jitsu for many years. When I was young, my dad trained jiu-jitsu in the 70s, a few years. I don't know exactly how long he trained, but I know that at some moment he trained back and was like heavily self-defense and so forth. So when my parents got divorced, I was 4, my brother was 8, and he used to show my brother moves. And my brother always said that when I start driving, I'm going to start training jiu-jitsu. And I always said, well, I'm going to train too. So back then, this is like late 80s, not too many schools in the area that I live. So, well, the time I started training judo when I was 10, and I really liked that. I really enjoyed that. Was there was a school well, it was a gym, because everything the most of the schools in Brazil are kind of like their fitness gym, and then they have a room for a martial art or whatever.
Mhm.
So that's what I did. I did judo for a good, like, I don't know, probably over 6 months, and I really enjoyed, but I wasn't a big fan of school and bad grades. My mom just
Oh,
got me off judo, and I always decide, well, when I get back, whenever my grades get better, whatever, I'll get back to judo because I really like. So that took a few years, and around that time, my brother turned 18. That's when he started driving in Brazil, in US 16. So he started actually training, and then he told me and said, like, I want to go back to judo, and said, well, it's pretty similar to judo, but you know, maybe I can do more stuff on the ground or whatnot. So basically, I went with him. I was 14, about to turn 15, and that was it. I kept going. He trained for a few more months and then stopped. The time didn't work for him. He got involved with triathlon, so he still involved with triathlon to this day. And I'm involved with jiu-jitsu. So basically, that's where it started. That was 1989.
So after that, how long did you train? Because I know you bounced around to a couple different schools when you were younger, right? And then you hit at that one that you carried through all the way until you moved to the U.S. Was there a bunch of different? Was there a lot of different schools, or was it just the two that I know?
Well, there's the area I lived in, a neighborhood we can call a city called Villa Isabel, and back then there were only two schools in that area, and it was good because I could walk to them, and a bit of a walk, but I could go. So at the first one that I went to, my brother was training. It was a program inside a fitness gym. And I was there for 2 months, and the guy had a falling out with the owner of the gym. So they canceled the jiu-jitsu program. So there's no more jiu-jitsu classes. So there was the only other school
was
in my neighborhood.
was
Mhm.
judo popular back then in Brazil?
More well, I'm not gonna remember it exactly, but always judo's been it's judo is a big deal in Brazil.
Yeah.
That's one of the sports that bring the most amount of medals in the Olympics and stuff.
Is it a big separation between judo and jiu-jitsu as two different sports, or do they bleed?
Used to be. Now probably still, but I've been away from Brazil for like 22 years, so it's not like I know exactly how the scenario, how people do, but it was pretty divided. And eventually in my journey, I started to train judo again and compete in judo. So that was you could see that the referees, when you go to the ground, they try to stand them up right away.
Mhm.
They kind of had that little like, this jiu-jitsu guys coming here, so there was a little hating, back then. I don't know how it is right now. I think they train a lot more on the ground. But yeah, so I had to train in this place. It was, again, a fitness gym, super ghetto, like really, really bad. And they had a tiny room that the owner teaches jiu-jitsu twice a week. So the guy was a nice guy, but it's one of those, like, the program's kind of there, like, yeah, twice a week I do this jiu-jitsu thing, like I teach here. And we probably had like 10 students, maybe peak at some point, like 15. I was there for like 2.5 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, close to 2.5 years. Got my blue belt. I was wearing a blue belt, thinking I was one, but I was wearing a blue belt. And but the place was awful, and I was horrible. I was a very bad blue belt. So
That's all right. You're in
Why?
good company.
So hold on. I was like, why do you say that? I mean,
no, because it's
you're
true. It's just a
smiling,
fact.
but
No, because it's funny. It really is. Because I start asking him, like, hey, because this even though I only had 2 months at the other school, I already people heard the teacher back then. He competed and stuff like that, so I knew that there were competitions, and I was curious about competition. So I knew the competition exists, and this is prior to internet, right? This guy's the only source that I have for the jiu-jitsu news or whatever is going on.
right.
And I started to ask him, like, hey, I want to compete. Like, yeah, there's not many tournaments, which he was right. There's not many tournaments, but they were tournaments. So once in a while, I'll ask him. He always blow me off. And this rarely in some small channel, sometimes they do a little coverage saying like, oh, jiu-jitsu tournament, some little local channel or whatever, do like a little 1 minute segment. And I'll be like, oh my God, I recorded everything. I'll get on the VHS and then just go like get all the VHS tapes from like whatever I could record. If it was a minute in a show, I'll record because I couldn't watch anything. And I just kept bugging. And finally he decided to do an in-house tournament. And I got super excited that I'm finally going to compete, and this and that. So I'm going there training twice a week, and it was like he showed a few things there, and then we roll for like 3 minutes and do a few rounds. Okay, wrap up and that's it, So I'm training. I'm getting ready for a competition. I have no idea. And then the day of the tournament comes in, and small in-house tournament. He invited like three or four more schools, So as soon as I start the match, this guy pulls me in the guard and he's like, Gustavo, open the guard. I say, yes. And I'm going to do the only pass that you have showed me so far, which I put my arm inside in between the legs. Oh. And then I'm finding my way out. Did the move. So I did.
How did that work out?
Well, there was about 20 seconds I got stuck in a triangle. And then I had no idea what happened. And then the ref, this is the best part. And then the ref raised my opponent's arm, which he was a white belt and I was the blue belt.
Oh, tragic. Yeah, I can only imagine. Brutal.
So I'm sitting there watching some of the guys competing, and then I'm like, man, I have no idea what these people are doing. Not that it was advanced. I mean, you're talking like, this is, I don't know, it got to be maybe by this point, maybe 92. Can't remember, probably about 92. I'm like, man. And then he asked, hey, we're going to do a kind of exhibition match. When I do, I was like, sure, I'm ready here. I might as well. So I just kind of like went crazy there, like spaz with another kid there for like, I think I was 16. Maybe the year that I turned 17. So I just scrambled there with this kid for like about 5 minutes, and then I finished. The kid, I really don't remember points or whatever. We went for 5 minutes. So that's one of the kids that trained there too, but he has been training longer, but he was a yellow belt. So, so this day, it was not a good day.
So you got beat by a yellow belt and a white belt, huh?
Exactly.
Oh, man.
So there's no way.
You came back.
Yes, but so when I smile, that's why I smile like, yeah, I was not very good and I'm aware of it. So but I didn't know. I became aware of it that I was horrible. So I came back home very upset. My mom's like, how was the tournament, honey? I was like, it was horrible. It was horrible. I had no idea what's going on. I don't miss a class. I tell me everything you tell me to do, including those multiple attackers training. I do everything this guy telling me to do, and this is the best I can do. Get submitted by a white belt in 20 seconds and then lose by a kid, as bad as I am in 5 minutes. So I told her, like, I really, because here's the thing, on moments like this, that's the moment of a decision needs to be made for many people. And one of my favorite quotes from Tony Robbins, and it's in your moments of decision that your destiny is shaped. Mm-hmm. So at that decision, be like, no, I'm done with this. This is embarrassing. This is embarrassing. I'm rocking this blue belt here, and this dude in the white belt just killed me in 20 seconds. So I made a decision that I want to do this again, but I cannot stay here. Like, this is not going to help me to go anywhere. So I told my mom, I need to go somewhere, but I need to go to Tijuca, which I'll have to travel a little more from where I live, and dues would be a little more expensive, And so she needed to agree, because of course I couldn't afford. And then she's like, okay, look for a place. So I was I was coming back from school. I can't remember, but I was on a bus, and then I saw a banner that just said Jiu-Jitsu competition team. That's all it said. And in a gym, to a fitness gym. So they started in a program there. So I told my mom, like, I found a place, they have Jiu-Jitsu, and I have no idea who was teaching or whatever. So back then, you got to understand too that it's funny when you look back. There's no waivers, the parents sign. It's just like you just show up there, you know what I mean, and you train. There's no such a thing, you know what I mean? It's just, but anyway, so it's kind of funny. So I go there, and the ladies are like, "Oh, the class is at night, this and that. Do you want to come in and watch the class?" And I'm like, "No, I'm ready to sign up." So my mom gave me a check. I was like, "You don't want to see the class?" And I'm like, "There's no way this place is worse than where I'm at." I have
the bar was set so low that
I have to get out of there, and I have my excuses lined up for my teacher too. The other one is that, like, I'm taking, I was already doing English classes back then. So I'm like, I'm going to set my class for the exact time that this guy teaches. So I have my alibi. They're like, I can't come here anymore.
That's an excuse.
You had a plan.
I was ready. So like, those English classes, so and my teacher was a purple belt. So, the one that I was before, he was wearing a black belt. But the one that I started training was Fernando Cruz. Eventually he became a black belt from De La Riva, Ricardo De La Riva. And man, him being a purple belt, but like, and maybe a few months after he got promoted to brown. But in 6 months, I improved so much with him. This guy was a purple belt, just got his brown belt. And my first day, I asked him, almost begged him, can I wear a white belt? Can I go back to white belt? Because I just didn't know. I mean, even if you're in a horrible place for 2 years, I mean, you have kind of a clue that I do in my hipscape. I do a few things here and there, but I'm not good at all. And I'll get beat up for all the white belts. However, there was already like, 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's perfect. There's one more day, and there's more rolling and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So in 6 months, I felt that I became a blue belt. I really soaked in like everything that he was telling me, and that when started like my journey for start. Now he was building a new team. Very few students. There are like few blue belts from other schools or whatever. People starting from zero. It was a brand new program. And basically, that's when started my real journey as far as competition goes with him.
Was that competition a motivating factor for you to actually get better, or was it really more a setback, if you will? How did that feel in the retrospect, if you look at it right now?
I think looking back, when you're a teenager, my mom couldn't afford really sports and stuff like that. So since I was little kid, I was craving for some type of sport, something. I was craving so bad. It just happened that I ended up being jiu-jitsu. It could have been other thing. I was trying to get into soccer for many years, and my mom wouldn't put me in a program, but could have been soccer. It just happened that was jiu-jitsu. And I don't know. I think when being a teenager with low self-esteem, I want some validation. I wanted to win. I wanted to feel good about myself. And when I look back, that was driving me a lot, because when I start losing, and then the friends that don't train in the street are like, man, you lose all the time, So now I'm thinking like, I have to win. I'm going to show them, So we started to become, and that's a problem when you start fighting for your self-esteem, because you don't have control. Now it brings a lot of anxiety. Yeah. So I felt that looking back, being completely 100% honest, if I was being a teenager, I always felt like I was competitive on competing. I just wanted to win. And I felt that it was a way for me to raise my self-esteem. That's what, when I look back, if I try to put some pieces together, it's tough for me to say, but I just want to like, I want to compete, but I want to win in something. I want to win. That's what I thought.
That happens fairly frequently today when students.
Absolutely.
I mean, nobody wants to lose. I'm yet to meet one person who wants to lose intentionally. I mean, that just doesn't happen. We are, as a human as humans, we just creatures of success. We want to get better. Always winning is always on our horizon. So losing is difficult. It's really hard, and it's very discouraging too. And yet you turn this around in a sense of, well, you paint very black and white picture. You got beat by somebody who was younger than you and somebody who was lower ranked than you, and then yet you go back and you say, well, this sucked. I'm going to, in order for me to get better, I have to change a play. So there's a clear plan of action to improve. That's what makes it interesting for me, at least.
Yeah, and it comes back to that moment that it sucked. That's you make the decision.
Yeah.
I think for all the listeners who listen right now, think about some of the pivotal moments of your life that you had to make a decision, that is move out of state, moving out of the country, going to college. All those big decisions that start shaping your destiny. And I've seen so many people in my journey to stop jiu-jitsu because of not having the results that they want in competitions. I don't know. I think I just didn't know better. And it was because I started losing and losing and losing. And that I started, in a way, motivation for me. Like, I know I have to win. I have to win. I know I can prove to myself. And again, low self-esteem, trying to prove to others too that I could win. So with him, that's when I started getting more exposed. Even though, and one thing that it was interesting with him, that he didn't put us in every tournament. He only put all the whatever bigger tournaments back then. There's not as many tournaments. And he have this theory that I don't agree whatsoever, but I had no saying. And they're like, hey, there's this tournament. No, this tournament is too small. If you want to, want to compete in a big tournament. So if you lose to good guys. And I'm like, I'm trying to win a match. I haven't won a match yet. Who's talking about winning a tournament? I'm trying to win a match here, and it did. It took me 6 tournaments to win a match. Not even win the tournament, just win the match.
How do you go through this mentally? I mean, 6 events and you continue not having a success. It just doesn't go your way. Whatever the reasoning is, doesn't matter. But it's very, it's it has to be putting you down. Like, I'm even thinking myself, if I was in that position, you keep trying and trying and trying and trying and trying, and you still don't see the success. How do you get through this?
Yeah, I want to know, is it something internal that you had, or was there something external pushing you? Was there somebody helping you along the way and guiding you? Or was it like, no, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make it.
Yeah, no. One thing's for sure. When I started training with Fernando, like, I was losing, but I wasn't getting killed. You know what I mean? So I was getting closer every time. I lost decisions. I lost 2-0, but it doesn't matter. A loss is a loss. But I feel that just going in and getting closer and closer, it was giving me that little hope. But the main thing I was losing at that point, I think it's one of the main mental mistakes that competitors in general make. I'm not even saying jiu-jitsu. I think in overall, people really putting 100% of focus on the outcome. And anytime you focus on things that you cannot control, whatever that is, it will bring to some muscle tension, some anxiety. And chances are you're not going to perform to the best of your ability. You can win. I won anxious before plenty of times, and that's okay. But you're not going to be at peace with your performance. So my mind was 100% focused on winning, which there's nothing. Here's the thing. It's not that it's wrong to. There's 3 types of goals. Okay, if I'm helping a student or I'm doing for myself, we have the outcome goal, you have a process goal, and a performance goal. So the outcome goal, that's what you put for yourself. Like, okay, I want to place top 4, I want to win, or whatever that is. That's the outcome that you want. Most of the time, you put your name in a bracket, you want to win. So usually is that. So if that is set, you say, this is the outcome that I want, you get this, this outcome, you put in a little box, imaginary box, put in a shelf, and then look at it and say, what do I have to do to have better chance of getting the outcome that I want that is inside that box?
Mm-hmm.
So now the only things that you can control is the process and the performance. The process of the preparation from training or physical or sleep or the whole thing, the process itself,
Mm-hmm.
and the day of the event, the performance, like really focus on executing all your best moves, or if it's not necessarily your best moves, but if you try to implement a new game plan or whatever, focus on that, and the outcome is just a consequence. So I did not have this clarity. So what happened is I lost many matches, and maybe some people listening can uh, maybe relate with this. So if you think about it, this for the listener too. If you had a tournament that you're prepared, you felt prepared and did everything you could, but and then finish, and then it was a 0-0. You lost a decision. Now you blame the ref. You thought you did this and that, but you chose to stay in your comfort zone and you did not want to do anything else. Maybe stay in your close guard and you stay for the close guard for 5 minutes, 6 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe you open up and you just put a guard and then you're just waiting for the moment that never happens and you did not want to use a plan B because now we start basically fear of making mistake. Fear of making mistake. Well, if I try this and it doesn't work, it's going to pass. I'm going to lose. I don't want to lose. I don't want to disappoint anyone. I'm going to stay here. So it's like you get in a little cycle of like, man, I don't want to make a mistake. And having the opportunity to work with so many high level guys in the past, as far as mental coaching or just being around friends of mine that are high level, man, the fear of making costly mistakes, it's one of the main mistakes. And this is not when you stop to reevaluate, and this is not just jiu-jitsu, this is in life. People they're in no work, that they hate, they don't like it, but they're like, what if I change and I go the other side and it doesn't work? You know what? Let me stay here. And then you stay there longer and longer, So with you, Thomas, when you change professions, when you left your secure job, you had to face the fear of making a mistake of like, am I doing the right thing? What if I tried this and it doesn't work? What am I going to do? So many people get caught with this. So that's why I believe competition, we're talking about jiu-jitsu, but competitions in general, but competition is just an incredible tool, because this gets you in the practice of going out of your comfort zone, facing fears, taking risks. And next thing, the idea is be able to take all that and transfer to your personal and professional life. So I felt that I didn't have this clarity in the beginning. I wanted to win, but I didn't know how much I was really focused on result instead of like focusing on preparation, focusing on the moves that you need to use. No, just like, am I going to win? Am I going to lose? And I just sometimes just psych myself completely out just thinking about that.
Yeah, you're talking about something really important in my opinion. It's the strategic approach to not only jiu-jitsu but to life, really. You desire this promotion at work. Well, you need to get somewhere. I mean, you have to do something to achieve that. You want to win this tournament or this event, you have to achieve that. You want to buy a house. There's some things that you have to do to achieve that. And some of these, regardless whether it's on or off the mat, whether it's jiu-jitsu, life, or checkers, it doesn't matter. You have to make these decisions, and some of them are bigger than others, but all of them have risk associated with them. And often, I think, we just are too afraid to take the risk. But the caveat is, at least in my eyes, if we don't take the risk, we're going to be in the same spot as we are making this decision, which means we didn't make any motion forward. We're not progressing. We're not learning. We're not growing. We kind of stuck, and we kind of coexist in this bubble. And then we wonder, how come we're not moving forward? So is this just vicious circle? of not going
Exactly.
anywhere.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think the fear of failure has held people back more than anything else. And I know it did for me for a long time too, where it was like, okay, I have this opportunity to leave, like you were saying, a job you hate and a long commute and just miserable every day of my life. And the other side was kind of scary because, I didn't have the security and it was something new. But if you don't step out of your comfort zone, if you don't face that fear, yeah, I mean, I'd still be going home angry every night. I'm sure it
Gustavo,
would
you should see Gary before when he was working.
have.
I mean, I saw him at jiu-jitsu classes and he was angry. I mean, angry. I was
Yeah,
like, what's going on, Gary? I was like, oh.
I know. And you know what's funny about it is one day we sat around, we were doing an instructor's course here, and we were sitting around, and somebody had said, when I walk through the door, they can tell immediately what kind of mood I'm in. And I know that's because I was spending the 8 hours prior to that miserable, and why was I miserable? Well, I was miserable because I was afraid to take certain opportunities that came my way. And once I did, the only time I'm miserable now is when I'm rolling with Thomas. So otherwise it's a good time. And I'm so glad I did it. So I don't, just finish up real quick. You gotta face your fears. You gotta step out of your comfort zone, whether it's in competition or any other aspect of your life. You just gotta do it, because you're always going to regret the things you didn't try and the things you didn't do. And if you did try and you did do things and you failed, you're probably not going to regret them as much. That's just the way I've started looking at things fairly recently.
So Gustavo, life is going. You're getting better. You're not maybe succeeding yet. The goal is not there. At which point in your life you are thinking that jiu-jitsu will become your profession? Because I know that's pretty early on. At which point that seed gets planted in your head, because that becomes your goal, right? That becomes the outcome goal for you.
It basically was around the same time that I had the first experience with the competition. But even before that, I was already thinking, not too long after I started training, for some reason, I just look at it, wait a minute, so you can just do jiu-jitsu kind of in the time you want, and then you kind of get paid for it? Is that how it works? So it's kind of like naive, in a way, but it's like, dude, that sounds like a pretty good gig, so I just kind of put that in my mind that I was going to do it. And then my family, it's one of those things like, oh, jiu-jitsu is good, keep away from trouble, from drugs, and all this stuff. I'm like, no, I think I'm really going to do this. They're like, oh, yeah. So I don't think they thought it was just an extracurricular activity, but in my mind, I really had other plans. I did think about the possibility, like, what if I have, my idea was to have a fitness gym with a jiu-jitsu room, because that's the only thing that I understanding that I had in Brazil. Was rare for you to find like a school, someone rents a place and it's just a jiu-jitsu place.
What was
back
that?
then?
I'm curious. What was that?
I think back then jiu-jitsu wasn't as popular.
Mm-hmm.
So I bet that probably they were, but like where I lived in the areas that I was exposed to, I don't think it just wasn't and it was more convenient. It wasn't as risky for the instructors. They have a nice instructor. They have like, hey, there's a big room. They put the mats. You come in, you do a 50-50 with the owner. So it's kind of like it was like a good deal for teachers. You know what I mean?
So the seed gets planted, and what is your plan? Like, I mean, are you thinking seriously about this, or this is a dream, or this is a big decision? Like I was in a similar position, just mine was years or decades later. But it all starts with this dream. It all starts with this thought, this idea, and then you become somewhat, at least in my case, somewhat obsessed with it. And you think about it, you plan it, you dream about it, you talk to other people, and people shut you down. And everybody in my family thought I was completely crazy, by doing this. What did this look like on your side?
At first, when I was blue belt, it's like my family didn't really take serious to know that I'm going to do this for a living. It's something that, it's not a normal thing back then, someone to make a living with martial arts. It's basically you have a job and yeah, sure, you teach jiu-jitsu on the side, but it's not, it wasn't that popular. So I started doing better in the blue belt, and I won one tournament as a blue belt. It was a small tournament, but that one it was great for my confidence. Actually, the light at the end of the tunnel for my confidence, that's when I won my first match. And that was a big tournament. It was a real state championship. So I went like, today is the day that I'm going to win a match. It wasn't a thing about winning a tournament. Come on.
One step at a time.
Yeah, baby steps.
So I went there, like I just went all out, just went crazy, just get everything I got. So I ended up beating this guy 4-0. And as soon as finished, just lay on the ground, and probably someone have worked on your forearms before in the tournament. Or like, oh my God, I can close my hand. So my coach like stepping on my forearm. Okay, that was really good. You got 4 more matches. Like 4 more matches. I'm ready to go home. I already got my win. What are you talking about? I think it was my first year in college too. I think it was my first year because right after I lost, I did it well, but I lost. I ended up learning a move that I messed up, but so ended up going 1-1. So next day I'm like walking to my head tall and my chest. Probably thinking, oh, that's the new champion. No, he won a match. I'm like, nice. The confidence was at its peak. They didn't even know. And yeah, so I think that was like, well, if I beat one person, I can beat other people too, so that gave me the confidence. And then my coach promoted a small tournament, few schools invited and stuff, but there was a day too that I ended up winning. So I only had like 2 matches. It was a small tournament, but again, that's another one. That's what I needed. He just put him in like the big tournaments, and they had some smaller ones that I wanted to get a little feeling more comfortable. And again, every time I would lose, next time I go win, we're like the last one. And people do this all the time. Man, the last time I lost, now this one I have to win. So you pressure yourself even more, focusing even more on the outcome, bringing more anxiety. And that's what was happening with me. So my jiu-jitsu was getting pretty decent, but I wasn't showing what I knew because I just stay in my comfort zone, wouldn't take many risks. So as long as things were going on according to my game, I was like, all right, it's all good. At the moment that my game would have got shut down, I had a hard time like letting go and then open up unless I was behind. But if it was tied or something like this, like I would be. That's why I lost a lot of decisions in my career, matches that I should have never lost because I didn't go out of my comfort zone. But anyway, so and then finally I start placing in bigger tournaments, like place second, maybe like 3 times or something. So that was really good, and then when finally I started doing better in 1996, they had the very first Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I started doing better in blue belt, and then my coach Fernando decided to promote me to purple belt. And I begged him not to do so. And I was like, please don't do this to me. I swear to God, I was like,
did you actually go up to him and you talk to him?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, dude, you know how long is it take me to win a match, right? You know how long it take me to win a tournament.
Now I got to start over.
Like, I got to start all over. So, but now comes a message too, because he was seeing something very often. Your instructor is seeing something that you can't see.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So he is like, no, you'll be fine. And the same thing when I was a blue belt and I asked him, to go down to white, he said, no, you'll be fine. You'll pick it up. So he saw something that I didn't see either. But when he got a purple belt, I remember going back home and devastated. I'm like, because the Worlds would be like in 5 months, maybe from there, about that, close to 5 months, 4 or 5 months. So I started to, competing as purple, and my very first turn, my goal was to win 1 match, and so we're like, hey, if I win a match in purple belt, there'll be a validation that, okay, I belong here. So that was a local state tournament. It was a good one. And I ended up winning. Like I won my first match. I'm like, oh my God, I won a match, and then the second one, and I won 2. I was like, oh my God, 2 matches. I was ready to go home. And then my third match, I lost. And then Vitor Shaolin ended up winning that division. He was on the other side of the bracket. So that's when I saw kind of actually pay attention to him before that, and when he was a blue belt. But that helped my confidence too. And in 96, I had a chance to compete at the Worlds, and the very first Worlds, which was a great experience to be part. So it's really cool to see the evolution of
This is still in
the
Brazil,
IBJJF.
right?
Yeah.
This is before Worlds came to US, right?
Yes. That was January 1996. So it was in the summer.
Mhm.
So that was a bad idea. That's why they changed the next year. 97 was July, because it was in the summer with no AC in the gymnasium. Jesus Christ. It was a lot of people getting sick. You know what I mean?
I bet.
Man, dehydrated. It was awful. So it was a great experience. And back then they had, it's interesting to see the importance of the mindset too. I went to this tournament. Well, first you need to qualify to compete, right? You need to be placed first and second at the state. And I took third, so it didn't count. And they have the PANs, they have nationals, they have like a few tournaments that you need to place in order to compete. So if you didn't, you had a national trials the weekend before. So you needed to compete the weekend before. And two people or whatever, I think they were open two. I was going as a lightweight. So they run a bracket, and then two people would go. So the winner of the bracket A and B both would qualify to the World. So not like it would have a final. It's just like there's two brackets, the winner of each one qualify. So I end up winning my bracket. So that was a surprise, because again, I'm still developing my confidence. And at first my goal, it was not a goal, but it was kind of like, well, that would be cool to be in a world championship. It would be nice to be part of the party. That is the worst mindset if you're a competitor. You don't want to be a part of the party. You know what I mean? I'm not going there, so that's why I get like very serious with people that really want to do the words of like, don't do what I've done before. I had no, and of course, being the first Worlds, not people, oh my God, the Worlds. It's just like, hey, there's a new tournament around. They're going to call it the Worlds. They had like a few foreigners, so it's not like what's this big thing that is right now. It's completely different vibe. And so I went kind of like even relaxed that, okay, see what happens. I wasn't very confident. And then I made one of the main mistakes that I created a list of the top, well, in English is the top 10 mistakes jiu-jitsu competitors make and how to avoid them. And in Portuguese, I translated and made the top 30 mistakes after so many interviews and so forth. And this is one of the mistakes that I learned, that was not to be kind of satisfied with the result before you even competed, before you even, like step on a mat in a way.
Explain that.
Yeah. So here's the deal. So, made to the tournament. So it's like, nice. I'm part of the party. I have my invitation. And then, so I got there, I started doing well when I got in the semifinal. When I got in the semifinal, I was just like, oh my God, a week ago, I didn't even think I was going to be here. Like, I'm good. Whatever happens. I didn't even think I'd be here. I'm going to be on a podium. So that is a mistake that a lot of people do. And don't get me wrong. For people who are listening, if you have been a part of a big bracket, let's say I'm going to be extreme, World's blue belts. Maybe sometimes if it passes over 128 people, now we're talking about 7-8 matches. You go through a war all day long, and you get in a final four, you're like, dude, that's kind of a relief. You know what I mean? I'm not going home. There's no extra ribbons, if you go 6 matches and lose, so like, that's kind of nice. And that's a danger zone, because at that point, if you're not focused, you relax. And then you're like, whatever happens. And you don't go as focused. That happens a lot in quarterfinals. People that get too amped up to just one more to place, so people get amped up for that. And sometimes when they get in the semi, they like relief. Some people have that when they get to a finals and end up not performing. And I lived that before. And I know that most people, I have to see everyone, but I think a lot of people have felt this before, that got in a semi or final and kind of relax a little bit. You know what I mean?
So, are you saying that your final match should feel the same way as your very first match in the bracket?
Every match is a final. If you want to go, if your goal is to win, it doesn't matter if it's your first or the last one. Every match is literally a final, because if you lose your first match, you're done. It doesn't matter.
Oh yeah, it's an expensive T-shirt. You know.
So absolutely. So that was the only last time that I ever experienced that, because I went to the semifinal and ended up competing against a guy that was winning everything back then. So I'm already intimidated with that, and so I said, like, well, I already given excuses before I go on the mat. Well, he has been winning a bunch of stuff, so if I win, it's no big deal. I'm already here and all that kind of stuff. So I end up losing 2-0. I did well, but I lost to myself. And then in the final, he just ran over the guy. So I just kept that in my mind. 6 months later, I had the opportunity to train with this guy, and I did really well, and even submit him in training, which training competition, I understand. But that was in my mind, like, I didn't believe. I didn't believe. I had to, like, oh my God, I could have done it. But in my mind, so if in your mind you don't believe it, it's not going to happen. Fact.
So you're saying no matter how skilled you are, if you don't show up mentally,
no, you will find a way to mess up something.
Is that I've heard you talk about the dark passenger. Is that the dark passenger?
Basically, just
like the devil on your shoulder. That's telling you
just saying, like, hey man, come on. You didn't even know last week, you were like dreaming being part of the party. You're here, so relax, dude. Whatever happened is happy. It's all good. You know what I mean? And it's like, no. So I started to identify that in students, and sometimes people have a poker face and I won't be able to read, but I try to be very aware of people in big brackets, quarters and semis, like, I have so many people have experienced this before, of being like, whatever happens. And I never had that problem again. Let's put this way, and so after that, my coach, the thing with Fernando, man, I can say anything bad about him because he helped me so much and everything. However, have you guys watched Training Day?
Oh, yeah, I think everybody has. A good movie.
Okay, with Denzel Washington, for people who haven't not watched.
Oh, where's this going?
Well, he was a police officer.
Yeah.
In Rio. And I saw the transition of the good cop becoming, going to the dark side.
Right.
And it happens kind of a lot in South America, in Brazil, Mexico, guys that started with good intention, and then the system's so corrupt and there's so much wrong things, So basically his life just started going to a different and dark, let's put this way, route. So long story short, he stopped teaching for about 2 years. I had to look for a place to train. And that was, talking about decisions again, that was one of the hardest decisions of my life when I was a purple belt and I had to go to his house and tell him that he wasn't teaching anymore. For like 6 months, I was training someone's school, like, as a favor, he got kicked out of like 4 or 5 schools, and we follow him and everything. And by the end, there's only like 3 people. And I try to stay with him until like literally the end. But that was very hard to go tell him, like, this is what I want for my life. I really want to pursue this. And there's no way that I can reach high level going to crashing people's gym. Like, hey, can I roll it today? Because we don't have a place to train. Hey, can I train? I can't do that. I need to have a home. And then, so his life went, long story. But that's when I made a decision to go to Andre Pederneiras with Nova União. Nova União was just starting. They started in 95. So I went there right after, not too long after the Worlds in 96.
Was that hard to make that switch?
Very much, because very grateful for everything he did for me. Even though he was nuts, you know what I mean? Like he was like, whoo, I have stories. However, he always took care of me. You know what I mean? He was crazy, but he never did anything, like crazy. Everything always on his mind to my best interest.
To your best interest.
And
yeah.
I became his best student. I was his main guy, the only one basically like in the whole neighborhood and that was placing it at the world. So that was kind of like a big deal for his name, starting from something very small and put a guy competing at the worlds and then placing. So that was a big deal. So it was a very tough decision to leave, but I would not be where I'm at in my life if Untitled wasn't in my life. That's for sure.
All these little stepping stones
Yes.
through our life built who we are today. Whether
Yeah.
they are positive or negative, they have influence on us, and they.
Yeah. So they're the two main structures in my life that I say Fernando Cruz and Untitled.
So let me ask you this: so the first time you switched, right? You went to Fernando's. It was very eye-opening for you.
Yeah.
Because you were like, well, I'm not really a blue belt, and
Yeah.
all these feelings. How was the second switch in the same aspect? Did you feel that you were the level arriving to this new academy with a larger student base?
Yes, a good question. And it was different because I was already like, that guy plays at the Worlds. So that's already kind of like, I'm coming in, not like I was already had compete against people from there. I have beat and I have lost people from there. So I already had some battles with some of the main guys. But the thing is, if I stay with him out there, no way, So, but I'll tell you again, it took me 6 months for Fernando to see the improvement, and when I went to Andre in 6 months, my jiu-jitsu just skyrocketed. It was just the people I was surrounded by, and I was. Here's the thing too: Jim Rome talks about the power of the association. Mm-hmm. You're the average of the 5 people you hang out the most with. Whether you believe or you don't, you can just kind of think about it. If you hang around 5 people that drink and then you want to stop drinking, it's going to be a challenge because everywhere you go, everyone's drinking. Just a rough reference.
Right.
But it was a small school, so all the main competitors, including me, have self-esteem issues and confidence issues. That can we compete against the big guys?
Right.
Can we do this? Even though like I took third, but like it's third is not a win. Can we? So there's always that what if factor, like we didn't know it could do it. And then being surrounded by people that don't think like that, the main competitors, guys are making noise coming up. When I got there, it was purple. Charlene just got his brown, and then it was like other guys that they're just like, we win. You know what I mean? We're part of a winning team. We don't go thinking about second. You know what I mean? There was a different mentality in the room, and that I started like really soaking that. Besides the technique that was improving, the confidence that like, man, if I can't train well with these guys, that means, man, I can get results too, so that it was incredible. I was so lucky to be in a room that this will never happen again, because Andre migrated to MMA, and then basically I was very lucky to be part of the golden days of the Nova União when they're coming up. All the kind of BJJ stars of Nova União were coming up, blue, purple, brown, black, and competing. So I was so lucky to be in that room.
At which point all of this converts into you becoming a leader and start sharing these wisdoms, because these are all gold mines. These are all experiences that you've gone through. But not only that, you actually put some thought into this, you process the information, and you use it to improve yourself. At which point this converts into, I'm going to help others, because essentially that's what you're doing. You're going beyond being just an instructor.
Well, definitely it was far in my journey. Let's say like a decade ago, maybe 2010. So there's a kind of like I'm fast forward this, but I feel that it's interesting because I talk about this in my podcast, my last interview. I haven't even released yet. And I don't remember if I've told the story before that I'm going to share with you guys. I really don't remember. So from 1997, that's the year that everything changed, mentally speaking.
Okay.
1 year after I have the first Worlds in 96 and 97, it wasn't in January anymore. It was in July. So I had a year and a half of growth, and I went back to compete as a purple belt because I had to. Of course, I was still a purple belt. And there's something I've heard Tony Robbins saying, and the only reason why I relate to this is because I experienced that on this specific year, which is, I don't know if you, any of the listeners, haven't experienced that of a difference between when you believe in something and you have a conviction of something. Some people may sound like, it's the same thing, but the conviction is kind of like, no. It's going to happen in an insane manner or whatever, in the same way. You just cannot see the other outcome. Yeah. You can call overconfidence, can call arrogance, can go optimal confidence, whatever you want to look at it, naive, whatever you want to look at it. But it's a different, like, no, it's going to work. It's going to work. It's just one of those moments. And that's basically in confidence. You have the three types of confidence. You have low confidence, which or none. We have overconfidence, which is basically sometimes people might think they are ready, but they're not quite as ready as they think they are. That can happen too. And there's the optimal confidence that you just like, nah, man, I'm about right. I've done my work, and then you just trust what you did. It's not low, it's not high, it's just about right. The optimal confidence. And that was the first time in my life since 1989 that I put a gi for the first time. In 1997, that was the first time that I experienced optimal confidence in my life, in anything, not sports, anything in my life. I had a conviction of something. And so I went to compete in 1997. Since I placed the year before, I didn't have to do any qualifiers. So I was automatically qualified because it was like, if you placed top 4 the year before, so automatically in. And I started doing strength and conditioning in 1995. I was one of the first guys there in jiu-jitsu, so looking for a coach to start helping me with that, because this was back when I was with Fernando. I just like, man, I need to do extra. I need to do something extra. So I had a 6-month program for this Worlds. Everything since January until I think it was July was everything, whatever tournaments happened before is just preparation for the Worlds. And
you're not only referring jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, weights, swimming, running, that kind of stuff. Yeah. So a couple of months before the Worlds, I had opportunity to compete in a small tournament out of town, but I had the opportunity to compete against the current Brazilian national champion. And I went there because I knew that he was going to be there. And I'm like, I have to see what's up. Like, I really need to see how I can go and do against this guy. So I end up winning. So that my confidence be like, in my mind, I feel that everyone, in a way, you have a match or a tournament that you get a little stamp of validation in your mind that say like, I have arrived. Maybe not for others, but for my mind, I believe that I belong here. Mm-hmm. So I think people go through, it's tough to say everyone, but I'm saying from mine, I've seen students that sometimes they have a few different moments that they're like, nice, I got this. Okay. So I went to the 1997 Worlds, and I woke up that day with a conviction that I never had it before, that I was like, today is my day, and it's going to happen. So I had a list with the name of the tournament, so that I was going to compete, that I competed, and then the date, if I place, how many matches. So I just kept like a log. So every time after the tournament, I would just go and take a look into that. And for the first time, this the first time with you doing this little system, I wrote champion before, and I knew there's 32 people in a bracket, so it's not as big as it's today, but it's still 5 matches. And I put I think maybe a few more or something, but I knew there would be, I would have 5 matches. And I put 5 matches and I put champion, but not in an overconfident way, but in an optimal confidence way that at any way I wasn't feeling arrogant in a way. I wasn't like looking down people, none of that. And my very first match was against the guy. Oh no, that was the year before. No, oh yeah. No, in 96, me and this other guy took third. He won the other side of the bracket. Those 2 guys qualified. So this guy ended up being my first match in 97.
Oh, okay.
So in 1 minute of the match, it happens fast. I hurt my rib out of nowhere, just turning, like he was trying to pass a turnout force, and I sat and I just felt something in my rib, just a tweak. And I have never hurt my rib before. And I felt like, oh, like, dude, there's something's wrong. And then I was afraid that back then, it's not like right now, stop, call the medics and stuff like that. It was different rules and, settings. So I didn't want them to stop or call the ref. Like, man, they're going to end up stopping the match. So I just stay quiet. Like, I can't say anything. So I started like, man, I need to start like jumping out of bounds. I'm going to need to go out of bounds. I need to find a way to kind of flare outside. And then I was kind of like in a butterfly position, and I started kind of like scooting, try to go out of bounds, because like, man, I want to get back on my feet and take a look what is happening, because I knew that something was wrong. And as soon as I get in the area, the Hoka Gracie, the ref, like, stop right here, and he started dragging us to the middle. Like, God damn it.
That didn't work.
And every time he dragged us, it tweaked my rib, and I was like, and I did twice. I said, are you okay? I'm like, yeah. And then this dude started to blitzing the hell out of me. He just scored like 4 advantages in a row. I'm just pushing and pushing. I'm just like, where is out of bounds? I just need to jump out of bounds. Like I need a reset. I need to stand up. I need to do something. So this dude is blitzing the hell out of me. So I find my way of jumping myself out of bounds. And 4 advantages later, and so I open my gi and I see a big bump on my rib. And right away, I was like, oh man, this is not good. So I got up. As soon as I got up, I kind of drop again. I couldn't stay like really straight my body. I had to stay kind of in like this. And back then I was a heavy guard player, and I couldn't play guard. So I was like, man, for about 2 minutes, I was lost. My focus was gone. And trying to think like, dude, what am I going to do? And trying to refocus. And then remember one time, I still have the match. And I remember exactly, there's a moment in the video that I just stopped. I put my hands, in my waist, and I just got a deep breath, kind of like, man, it's now, I got to do something. So anyway, so he pulled, I ended up doing like a long step. He turned, I went to his back, ended up choking him. So I went to the medics, and the guy looked in the rib, said, man, you better stop, because this you don't know exactly what's going on, can make a hole in your lung or whatever. Started like scaring the hell out of me. Now comes the moment of decision. You, the listener who is listening right now, what would you do? Would you go like, okay, I'm okay to go 4 more matches with the rib in, or and say like, man, this can get worse, and leave? So it's tough to say like what you should do. Only who is living that experience at the moment can really, like, the adrenaline kicking in. And my brother was with me, and I remember very well holding my tears, because I remember, and this is the power of like writing things down. For people who are listening, probably you guys listen over and over. If you listen to personal development or books or read, they follow the importance, ink it, don't think it, make sure to put down the paper, all that kind of stuff. I believe in that. I really do. And at one point, I was like holding my tears and thinking like, this is not supposed to finish like that. I wrote this thing down. it was like I was disappointing myself that it said like, you full of crap. You wrote it that you're gonna do it, and you didn't. So I just kept thinking like it's not meant to finish like that. And I have even some of my friends, like saying like, yeah, man, if it's bad, be careful, this and that. And my brother just kept like pulling me away from everyone that was giving the possibility of stopping. And that's one of the things sometimes we have in life, some challenges that we're so far from the goal that we have. We just look in the top of the mountain and look at the mountain like, dude, it's so far. And I don't even know how I'm going to get there. We just look at the top of like, and that was looking up at the mountains like, dude, I have 4 more matches like this. And of course, every match was getting worse,
right?
Because it's not getting better. Mm-hmm. And my brother told me something like, one match at a time. When you finish the next one, and then you see if you can continue, if you can, and just go like that. And that made a huge impact in my life for a lot of different things of like one match at a time. Don't think, in the final, I'm going to go against. You don't know who you're going to go against.
Did you feel the difference? Did you feel the difference between these matches as you were going, as you were getting closer? Or you're not even thinking about that remotely?
As far as the pain?
Right. Is it
yeah, no, it was limited. I couldn't play my game. I had to start playing top. Because usually I play bottom. So I go to my second match, and then my second match was a guy from Nova União Team B. That means I have the 2 main seeds from our team to score points for the team. And there's a tough dude from Manaus, from the Amazon. Those guys are tough as hell. That wasn't end up being on Team B. And then him and his coach came to talk with me like, hey, I heard that you got hurt, maybe you can open up for him. Like, no, I'm fine. Things are great.
No freebies.
No, we're going. And long story short, I end up beating ugly match. Basically, every time I finish a match and go back to the medics. And after that, I had 4 more matches, winning by advantage, negative points, ugly, but actually end up getting the job done and winning. So that experience made it such a huge impact in my life. So now you guys know David Goggins?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So for people who never had a chance to listen to his book or read, Can't Hurt Me?
Can't Hurt Me? Yeah, great book.
Can't Hurt Me.
Book.
Yeah. So the audio version is awesome. So he talked about the
does
cookie
he read it
jar
himself, or does he have a?
Well, there's a guy that reads, but they do like a podcast format. At the end of each chapter, they kind of like they talk about what was happening. So that was very unique. So he talked about the cookie jar concept, which is like when you're like some type of struggle, you need to go in the cookie jar. That means that all the struggles that you overcame before. So for all the listeners, you going through a struggle right now, remember like what are some of the rough ones that you've been through, and you go to that jar and grab them and look at them, see like, man, I have overcome some struggle before. I can do it again. Mm-hmm. So basically that became the big one to this day. That's the biggest one of my cookie jar, my jiu-jitsu career, regardless of, doesn't matter if it's the belt, it's just the experience of being in a corner in a situation that like you have 2 options. Either you continue or you take a risk, and you may end up injuring something really bad. You don't know really what can happen. So I tell this to all the listeners too, and to you guys, not to impress anyone, look my results, but to press upon you how, and to convey the point that when you look back and look into the struggles that you had before, all those struggles, and that's what David Goggins talked about, like they will give you strength to overcome whatever next struggle, because you will struggle eventually in whatever. I don't care what, it's not like the struggle season is over. You know what I mean? Like you will struggle in different moments and different things, but more experiences you have in your life, bigger is that cookie jar, and more you can get like get those, just go inside, grab some to give you strength to move forward. And that year really changed the direction of my life. It really did something incredible to my mind, of what I was capable of doing, just going through that in such a dramatic fashion against very good competitors.
Well, I bet that shaped literally the rest of your life and everything that you're doing right now. Was that a pivotal point for you to start actually helping others? Or
No, not yet. No, no,
not
no,
yet?
no. No, because I'm still in my 20s. I don't
You're
know.
still in you're still in Brazil, right? This is all
Yeah,
happening in
yeah,
Brazil. We didn't even
yeah.
touch the part of your life where you moved to US and you dream about your
Yeah,
school.
no.
And
I was already teaching classes. Started teaching in 1995. As soon as I got my purple belt, an opportunity presented itself to teach in a gym, in a
yeah,
fitness gym. So I was teaching, and then my confidence got got up, and I started to like, now I'm not just one more guy in the brackets that sometimes wins. Like, yo, pay attention to that dude. And then the next year, so I was able to win as a brown belt. And on the following year, so that was good for my confidence as well. Now things went south when I moved to the US. That's when everything changed and show my immaturity. Let's say my low emotion maturity level. You know what I mean?
because of the change
Because
of the environment.
yes, and I just I didn't know how to deal. Like suddenly, like I'm coming from having good results and training with like the best guys in the world, and I made this choice. I made a decision to move to the US to pursue the possibility of, make a living with jiu-jitsu and have a school and stuff like that. So that transition, when I moved to the US, I ingrained in my head that like, man, because people start telling me like, man, you're doing so well right now. You're just going to go downhill and are going to have the same training partners. And I bought it. I'd never questioned it. I just bought it. And that showed how emotionally immature I was. I wasn't as strong emotionally as I thought.
So you took it for
You know what I
granted.
mean? For sure.
Yeah.
So like, oh, I have it. And then could I have done it without a training partner? That's very tough to say, but I could have challenged myself more. But when I moved to the US, everything changed. The priority became survival. So I went from 3 years in a row in the worlds in 96, 97, 98, 99. I was working construction around the time of the worlds in 99.
But also at the same time, the life changes, right? So the
Absolutely.
circumstances
That's the
change,
choice.
the
Yes.
environment changes. You made that choice to come to US for a different reason, right? To better your life and to seek the dream of at some point owning or having your own academy. So the goal has shifted to something else at this point,
Absolutely.
right?
And I knew that I was going to pay the price, because in the end, my priority wasn't, I didn't come to necessarily teach. I went to, the thing, I came to compete in California in 1998, one of the Joe Moreira's tournaments in California, because my instructor, Andre Pederneiras, he was competing. And another long story short, man, we can have hours here, so I have way too many stories.
We can go hours.
Yeah. So so I'm gonna have to cut down, here the stories. But yeah, I competed in US before, so I came here, stayed for 10 days, competed, did well in a tournament, and then I'm like, man, I can definitely live here. And basically 4 months later, I moved to Vegas.
Yeah.
And then, so you're struggling working, I don't want to say odd jobs, but you were like doing construction, you were doing
Different things,
landscaping, things like that. Yeah. And then did you make another monumental change? Was it before or after you had your first child?
I think the pivotal moment for me, another like big one, I think I have to say that was 2010 when I started getting involved with studying mental coaching.
Yeah.
Because from 99 to 2003, I competed not as often, because of looking back, it's just mindset. My mindset wasn't there. My confidence wasn't there. I still had opportunity to compete a few gi tournaments, and then I'm like, I wasn't feeling confident. So like, well, maybe I start trying something new, like no gi. And so I did a couple MMA fights and competed in a ADCC in 2001, 2003. So there's like cool experiences that I had, but also 4 years. And then I got divorced, and then that was it. You know, like my self-esteem just hit like bottom. And 2007, got back competing. Noticed how my confidence was never been the same since I was like in the days that I have peaked my confidence. And I decided in 2010, it's a long story too, but get involved. I wanted to learn more. I started competing, even having some results here and there, but I didn't like how I was feeling, feeling anxious, competing, even though having some results. And I decided to start studying, researching about mental coaching. And basically that was the kickoff.
I do have a feeling that we're going to have a second episode to talk about your entire life in US because this is so intriguing, and I don't want to stop you, but we are well over an hour and I want to be respectful of your time. So let's kind of pause this here. And I'm really hoping to resume this one more time and talk about your mental coaching, because this is a big part of what you do today and how you motivate your students. But before we wrap this up, we have very quick 5 questions for you. And we do this kind of as a surprise, but Gary will head this up. They are very quick. And I'll ask you just first thing that comes to your mind, kind of rapid answers. And some of them are funny, some of them are a little more serious, but it always generates a little conversations as we wrap things up.
Okay. Yeah. So here we go. What was it like the first time you stepped on the mat?
Excitement.
Just because it was something you had wanted to do, your big brother did it, and just starting.
Yeah, because I did judo before, and I liked that it was similar to judo. Yeah. And then I was like, dude, this is really cool. This is fun. So that was it was excitement.
Cool. All right. What has been your most rewarding achievement? Jiu-jitsu or not?
Well, becoming a father. One.
That seems to be the most popular answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And professionally, being able to have an academy in a foreign country, you know what I mean? Leave Brazil and be able to open a business in a different country. Yeah. Professionally, I have to say that. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Wonderful. Have you ever wanted to quit?
I don't think it crossed my mind, the quitting. I was always evolved. Yeah, I don't think at any point I think I was too stubborn to quit. But yeah, so I don't know. I don't remember having a feeling that I don't want to do this anymore. I just because things are not going my way or whatever. I don't know if I say like I don't want to compete or want to stop training jiu-jitsu. I don't remember say that I don't want to train jiu-jitsu anymore.
All right. Describe your feelings when you received your black belt.
Anxiety in a way, because I didn't think I was going to get promoted. But since I was moving to the US and starting, I'll probably stay. If I was in Brazil, I would stay a little longer. But since I was starting, I was just moving to the US for good. And then Andre felt that it was a good time to like start the new journey and do it. And again, me doubting myself, always kind of questioning the instructor, which I told him to, like, man, what about, should we wait a little bit longer? Yeah. I tried to do that thing again. But again, the instructors usually can see things that, sometimes we cannot see.
Nice. All right. And then the last and Thomas's favorite question is, do you wash your belt?
Sometimes. Every class? No.
No?
Not every class.
Just when it gets funky, or is there any particular?
We're going to get deep into that one.
No. If I'm just sometimes when I'm training, if I'm just teaching class, no. Yeah. But if I'm like, and I train and I feel like, a hard day that is wet, and then yes, but every time I use my gi and no.
All right, then we've got him.
Gustavo, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing these amazing stories. I was literally glued the entire time. I made like 4 pages of notes. So I really do appreciate your time. I appreciate you being here and sharing everything with us. Where can listeners find you? Where websites, social media? Are you everywhere?
Yeah, I guess Instagram, Gustavo Dantas, BJJ. I'm not super active. I put some stuff from the podcast and stuff there. And yeah, Instagram, I think, is the main one. And as far as we didn't have a chance to talk about jujitsutribe.org, which is the nonprofit organization that I co-founded about 10 years ago. So maybe that's something that we can talk about next time.
We'll make sure to put all the links in the show notes. So guys, make sure you check this out. Yeah.
You got the podcast, the BJJ Mental Coach podcast.com. So we have about 115 episodes right now. So I've been doing since 2018. And that's about it. GDJujitsu.com for my academy. And I appreciate you guys opening the window for me to share a little bit about my story. And I would love to chat more. There's definitely way too many stories, but they good stories with like good messages behind. You know what I mean? There's some of the things that I didn't realize when I was going through. And as we get older, we think about some stories and like, oh, wow. Yeah, there's some like really good lessons here that, when you're in the middle of the grind, you don't realize what is happening. But definitely next time we can talk more about the last decade of the mental coaching and getting back into competing nonprofit. And I've been promoting tournaments too in the US for over 20 years. So I would love to just let me know and we'll get back to it.
Happen because I think that's a big part of who you are and what you do today. And it would be, we got to put it out there. I think it's a great story in the beginning, but now we got to talk about the second part that you do right now. So we'll definitely have you back in the near future.
Awesome.
Yeah, there's a ton left to talk about. Please, we're short on time today. Hopefully we can do it again. I think what you're doing really is going to help a lot of people. And I think people are going to, when they listen to this, they're going to take a lot away. There's a lot of great messages here today. And like Thomas, I took a ton of notes too. So I appreciate everything you're doing.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Gustavo. We'll
yes,
talk
sir.
to you soon.
All right. Peace. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to RŌL Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.